Hello again, everyone. Welcome to our first Eddie Sutton Show of the year. I'm Tom Dirato, and by now you know Oklahoma State is off to a fast 3-0 start. The Cowboys were ranked 21st this past week. We'll have all the highlights from home wins over Appalachian State and Idaho, plus the rout of Arkansas Little Rock in the new Alltel Arena. On our off-the-court feature, you'll hear from former OSU standout Adrian Peterson, who is battling back from his first serious basketball-related injury. We'll have all that and a lot more for you, so stay with us. We're back after this opening timeout.
The Eddie Sutton Show is brought to you by Jeep and your local Jeep dealers, who invite you to test drive.
Well, welcome back to the show. Eddie, good to be doing this again. We're going to have a lot of fun this year with your show. Cowboys off, as I said, to a 3-0 start. Why don't you kind of give us the coach's view of this first 3 games of the regular season?
Well, I think we played 3 pretty good opponents in Appalachian State, the University of Idaho, and UALR last week in Little Rock. Not powerhouses, not a Big 12 opponent, but at least it's given us an opportunity to see some of the things we're doing well and some of the things we need to improve in. I think the one thing that's impressed me has been our ability to shoot the basketball. You know, we're averaging over 50 points from the field. I think the other thing that's kind of been impressive is the number of people we've been able to play. If this ball club is going to develop to be the team that I think it can be, then I think depth will really be a major role, or play a major role in that.
It's one thing to have depth. It's another thing to have productivity off the bench, and you've got both.
I think this team is the deepest since the '95 team, and you're right. It's always nice to have players come off the bench and be productive at both ends of the floor. You've
got guys you can run big men in, keep big men fresh on that opponent all game long, and that was evident the other night when we were over in Little Rock.
Well, and we didn't even have one of our big people there, Jason Keep, who's been slowed up a little by a knee injury. But when you look at Andre Williams, the other newcomer, those 2 guys have really given us a lot of help up front, and the improvement of Frederick and Brian. And if we can ever get Alex at full speed, then you really have a front court that is quite deep.
And I think before we go and take a look at some of these highlights, you've got the guys who can get the ball to the right people. I think Joe and Doug are making a lot of good decisions out there, making sure they hit the open man.
Well, you know, Doug led the nation last year in assists, and I think he's taken off right where he left off. He's averaging big numbers in that area. But Joe Adkins has really developed into a good point guard as well, and he's made some wonderful passes in our first 3 games.
Other than offensive rebounds given up, anything bothering you and the rest of your coaches?
Well, I think our inability with our size not to do a better job on the defensive board. We have given up too many second opportunities in all 3 games. I think the other area, when our intensity drops just a little bit, our defense suffers. And that was very evident in Little Rock the other night when we gave up 40 points in the first half. The second half, after a little bit of a do-better talk to the squad, they held the ball club to 24 points, 64 total. You'd like that, but I don't like those 40-point halftime scores against us.
You know, one thing's never changed is you do better talks. I mean, they're always there each and every year, and they were productive again this time around. As promised, we have a lot of highlights to show you, and we'll get right to that highlight package after we come back to the Eddie Sutton Show. Well, we are back, and, you know, kind of odd, we were talking during the break, the Cowboys' home opener really is going to be this Saturday night, technically against North Texas, although Oklahoma State did have the first 2 games at home in the America's Youth Classic.
Well, we had the opportunity to host 3 other teams here. The Eddie Robinson Foundation got the proceeds from it, and of course Eddie Robinson was the great coach at Grambling, and so we were pleased to be able to do that. And we opened up with Appalachian State, and ORU played Idaho on Friday evening.
And we won this one.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we won this one by a lot, but as a coaching staff, you weren't necessarily overwhelmed by the total effort.
Well, I was disappointed in our effort in this ball game, and you know they jump out on us 11-3, and they're outplaying us. They're getting every loose ball. They're out rebounding us, and I thought they accepted the criticism. There's a great block. And I think the next night we came out against Idaho, we were much better prepared. But there's no excuse for a veteran ball club to come out on the court and not give 100%. And I don't the guys, I don't know whether they didn't have the respect for Appalachian State, but I just didn't think we played as well in that first game as we did in the second game and even the third game. So we are getting better.
Having said that, though, we're up by 24 with about 8 minutes to go.
Well, when I thought early we weren't ready, then we got them playing, and then all of a sudden they put it in second gear, and not to take anything away from Buzz Peterson's ball club, because they're going to be very competitive in their league. You know, they always fight it out with the College of Charleston in that conference, and I think he's going to have a good ball club. But instead of really just breaking the game wide open and maybe winning by 30 or more, we didn't do that.
That's a pretty good drive there by a big man in Brian Montanati.
Well, he's made a lot of improvement in a year's time. He and Frederick, I think, are the most improved players on the ball club. It's a nice follow shot by Alex Weber, and like I said earlier, I hope we can get Alex where he's back at full speed, because he's having some leg problems, and he's just not as active, not as quick, and certainly doesn't have the stamina that he needs to play a lot of minutes.
A short team, but a quick team, and they presented some problems in that area as well, did they not?
Well, I think any time you play someone where you are playing smaller, then there's one thing you need to do is go inside the basketball, which we've had a hard time getting our guys to do. But a lot of times it means a big guy has to cover a smaller player on the perimeter, and that's a defensive problem. And we did something that we haven't done in 10 years, and I kind of threw a teaser at you guys when you were at halftime, and you had me on at the Baylor Oklahoma State ball game, and I had more phone calls that afternoon and that evening, and walking in the ring and says, "What's the surprise?"
They thought you were going to play again.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly not going to do that, but it's the orange uniforms, because you know, I've been so surprised at how much orange all of a sudden in a 10-year period that you now see in the stands, and it's wonderful. I think the football team started that tradition, and Terry Don Phillips, our athletic director, has really kind of promoted it along with other people in the athletic department. And so I thought, well, we better get with the game plan. And guys, some of the players had asked me about getting orange uniforms, and they didn't think I had gotten them, and we went out and warmed up in our white uniforms, and then when they came back in just before the game, well, they changed, and you'd have thought it was Christmas time in the dressing room, because the kids are really excited and they really like the orange uniforms. We won't wear them all the time, but we'll wear them part of the time.
I think what we saw in this game, other than a better effort than the first night, was the emergence of Andre Williams, and that Desmond Mason is indeed for real from the arc.
Well, I think that's the one area that Desmond has improved his game, is he really has been able to knock down the trays, and that has made him so much better as an offensive player, because he's always been regarded as a slasher, and now the defense has to honor his presence out on the perimeter. But Andre Williams is a wonderful athlete, and as he learns the game and continues to improve, he'll be able to really give us a lot of quality minutes.
Then you see Doug taking a drive to the hole, and again, they took the criticism, as you put it, very well the night before, and really looked like a complete team against Idaho.
Well, we just really played well in all areas of the game, and I think you're right. The young men that constitute our ball club, they're really good people, and when you have good people, they're going to listen and they're going to try to do what you tell them, and I thought they really reacted in a very positive manner.
Now, the next game was an emotional one for you. Going over to Little Rock, playing Sidney Moncrief, a former player. And, you know, I think of all the good things that came out of this game was the fact that all the newspaper articles, we got a chance to see you in some of those 1940 pictures.
Well,
a handsome devil you were.
Yeah, there were several people who said, "Gosh, you look good, Coach, but not as good as Patsy." And I said,
well, I said that to you.
It's been a little easier on her, I guess, and she's handled it better than I have. But it was great going back over there, because I did get to see a lot of people I hadn't seen in a long while, and I was really touched by the standing ovation they gave me when I was introduced. And the one thing I did not like was the game itself, in that I'm glad we won. I thought we really played well in the second half. First half we gave up too many points, but having to play against Sidney, who's certainly not only was a great basketball player, but a quality human being and the most loved athlete to ever play at the University of Arkansas. But I think he'll get that program going. I told him after the game, I said, you just need to get you a few more soldiers and keep doing the things you're doing, and you'll be all right. But I think it's going to take him a while to get that program up where he's a little more competitive.
Fred had himself a career high in the first half alone, ended up with 19 points, and That is encouraging to see.
Well, it is encouraging because I think and there's a nice shot of Frederick making a little turnaround jump hook. And I think he only played 14 or 15 minutes. That's Dean Lee's wife and 2 daughters, who's one of our assistant athletic directors.
There's Alex. Alex had a big contingent there, as you would expect.
Great pass by Doug Gottlieb off to Desmond. Alex missed the first 2 layups he had, and then he got it going. I think he scored the first 8 points.
And there you see again the versatility of Desmond Mason. He could take it inside, he could take it outside, he could shoot the intermediate shot.
You know, we went over there to dedicate this arena, and it was the first basketball game ever to be played there. I think they had Elton John, and they have an amateur, or they have a semi-pro, or maybe it's a pro hockey team that had played a game or 2 in there. But really a wonderful facility. All the years I was in Arkansas, the 11 years, there was always talk that we need to have an arena in central Arkansas, and I think the people of North Little Rock and some of the surrounding communities are really going to enjoy this facility because it's first class.
And again, this is where the Cowboys in Arkansas, the University of Arkansas, will play the 2 games over in Arkansas in the home and home.
We're going to start a new series with the Razorbacks next year, and we'll have the first game here in our state and then alternate years. And there's Sydney, and I wish all the people in our state would have the opportunity to meet Sydney. He's got 4 wonderful sons and a wonderful wife, Deborah, but it was just a lot of fun other than having to beat Sydney and their ball club. But you know, after the game, we hugged, and he'll always be a very special player to me and a very special person.
And as you pointed out early on, he was not the coach at UALR when the contract was signed.
No, that was Wimp Sanderson, the great coach at Alabama, who finished his coaching career there at UALR.
Okay, quickly, 3 games in, some pluses, some minuses. Just give us an X and O overview of this team.
Well, I think the pluses are we're shooting the ball well. I think the depth is certainly something that will allow us to be a very good basketball team. When we really play with a lot of intensity, our defense is good. We still need to improve our defensive board play. We got to eliminate some of the shots there. But overall, for the first 3 games, a coach has to be fairly pleased.
We had a special visitor over there at Little Rock, Adrian Peterson. Good to see Pete. And you're going to hear from Pete on our Off the Court feature, and that comes up right away. Welcome back to the show. You had an extra coach on the bench here at Little Rock.
It was great seeing Adrian Peterson again. He came over Monday evening, had dinner with us, and then he did sit on the bench, and he's rehabilitating that knee and hopes to be able to be playing sometime early this next year.
I asked him if he wanted to coach. He said, only if we're way ahead. Now, that's typical right there, isn't it?
He was a good cheerleader.
You know, Adrian Peterson was as durable as any player to ever wear an Oklahoma State uniform. The fact that he started 89 straight games, that's a school record, and played in 122 games overall says it all. Sure, he had his share of bumps and bruises, but he managed to avoid serious injury during his stay right here in Stillwater. He's currently battling back from the knee surgery that Eddie talked about, and for a while anyway, his plans have been put on hold to play in the pros. We had a chance to talk with Pete. We were in Little Rock earlier this week, and you'll be able to tell his spirits are still very high. Well, Pete, it's good to see you again. How you getting along?
I'm doing pretty good, you know, rehab and trying to get back in the swing of things again.
You know, it's ironic. You went through almost an entire career at Oklahoma State, really never suffered a serious injury, and you almost got out of that camp, didn't you?
Yeah, it got down to the last game, you know. It was like the second half, so it was just one of those freak accidents. It was just a routine play, no dirty work. It just came down on my knee wrong, and, I mean, just something you got to recover from.
You've always been a guy who's been able to kind of roll with the flow, never let anything bother you too much. This one must have really stressed you out because you were close.
Yeah, I was, you know, you get right there and it's like somebody grabs you and pulls you back. So, I mean, it took me a while to get over this one, but, I mean, like you said, I've always been able to, you know, overcome obstacles, so I'm just going to try to overcome this one as best I can.
What kind of rehab are you going through now?
Just every day, just like more repetitive stuff, trying to get my quad muscle and hamstring back strong again and just, you know, trying to make sure I don't, you know, damage the ligament again.
And that dream of playing pro ball is still there for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's going to take a while to get back into it, to get my hunger back, but I think after a while, you know, I'll reach back and go back to where I was before.
I know you're going to sit on the bench here tonight. You want to get into a little coaching while you're there?
Well, just, I hope they just blow them out, you know, play the best they can. I mean, for their sake, because I know they have 5 or 6 days of practice, so I want them to play well so they don't have to go through one of those tough Eddie Sutton practices again.
I was going to say, I know you missed these games here, but you might not miss those 2 and 3 days, do you?
Yeah, I miss the games, but I don't miss those, 2 or 3 day, 3-hour practices every day. So, I mean, I'm just having fun trying to get back in the swing of things.
As we get back to your rehab, how much longer will it take you to get back to really where you can do something?
Probably the next 4 or 5 weeks, I should be back where I'm full speed, and then after that, it'll be more of getting in shape and getting my time and getting my rhythm back down.
Pete, it's always good to see you. Sorry we had to see you under these circumstances, but you're looking like you're holding up pretty well.
All right, thanks, TD.
I tell you, he looked like he was ready to play except for the knee injury, and he said he'd really been working hard, so I'm sure in a short period of time he'll be back there playing and hopefully have that opportunity to play in the NBA next year. But a marvelous young man who graduated in 4 years. That doesn't happen very often anymore for a student athlete. Comes from a great family, and for a long while out there in the early season practices, we kept looking around, where's Pete? But I think we've finally made that adjustment that he's not any longer with this ball club, but it was good to see him.
He told me, obviously you didn't hear it on the air, but he told me he relied on you quite a bit in the early going after the surgery, after the injury, because he was really down. That obviously devastated him as far as pro plans were concerned.
Well, I think our staff and also some of his former teammates all called and wrote him letters just to keep his spirits up, because that was a big blow. I mean, he came down to the last day of that training camp in Chicago in a very freakish accident, and he'd gone through his entire career here and never had a serious injury. So he was down, but he seemed to be in high spirits this last week.
Now, you thought you were going to escape this year, but you're not. The Reporter's Notebook is back on the Eddie Sutton Show, so we're going to take our first look at the Reporter's Notebook. And oh my goodness, it's been bounced around a little bit. Let's see what it opens up to. And there's our first question, or first item, and that has to do with Jason Keep.
Well, Jason Keep is going to be a very good basketball player, and he's going to remind our fans of a small version maybe of Bryant Reeves. Got an injury. We thought at first it wasn't very serious. It's a bruised bone. It's not cartilage. It's not ligaments. Should be back here in the next few days, and he's going to be a quality player for us. And I think all of our fans have already kind of fallen in love with him because he's got that great spirit.
He does that, no question. Next item has to do with new faces on the bench.
Well, we have a couple of new coaches. Paul Graham and Randall Dickey have departed for Washington State. But we were able to hire 2 quality men that certainly have done an outstanding job so far. Jimmy Williams came to us from the University of Nebraska, and Kyle Keller, a graduate of Oklahoma State, was a head coach at Tyler Community College. And so those 2 guys have really done a good job, and they were very instrumental along with Sean in having a remarkable recruiting class in the fall.
Now, you guys are working the night shift more times than not in Gallagher-Iba Arena.
Well, it's testing everyone's patience, believe me, the coaches, players, fans, as far as the renovation of Gallagher-Iba, but it's all going to be worth it. It's going to be an unbelievable facility when it's finished, but it does mean that we have night practices and we share with the women, and the early group goes in at 5 o'clock and they go to about 8, and then you get the late session, you go from 8 to 11. So we've had some long night practices. Okay,
quickly, the Cowboys are back home Saturday night, an 8:05 start to accommodate the fans coming back from Norman, but it starts a nice home stretch.
Well, we do have some games upcoming next week at Wichita State and the University of Texas San Antonio, but it all starts, our official home opening is Saturday night with North Texas, and we'll be hoping that we have a double celebration after beating the Sooners in football that afternoon.
And you're looking for improvement in all those areas that you talked about just a while ago.
Well, I hope that we can continue to improve, and I think with this group they're pretty mature, and I think they understand they have a chance to be an outstanding ball club, and you get that way by just continuing to have that desire to improve every day.
Yeah, I'm glad we're back together. We're going to have a lot of fun again this year.
Basketball, it's that time of year, and with this ball club, I think we are going to have a lot of fun.
It'll be an exciting season. You make sure you get out and watch the Cowboys this year. You have plenty of opportunities coming up here in the next couple of weeks. For Eddie Sutton, our entire crew here at Educational Television Services, Tom Dirato. Goodbye, everybody.
The Eddie Sutton Show has been brought to you